Hi everyone. Okay, so today we're gonna do this lovely fluffy rice that I told you about. One of my recipes, which I learned from my mother. This is how they make beautiful fluffy rice with like all separated. It's all not sticky together, and I'm gonna do a different thing today. So let's talk about the rice. The rice we've got here. I've got two rices that I bought from my local supermarket. These rices, as you can see, have Indian, and it's important to buy the Indian brands because they're generally better quality. If you buy the supermarket brand, you get this horrible starchy thing, and that makes it sticky, and you have to wash it for a long, long time. And with these ones, you don't have to do that. Also, back to the ingredients, I've got here sunflower oil, very important, you will see why. And I've got here my favorite salt, which is Maldon. I think they sell it everywhere, but you can use normal rice. And this is from my butter. I haven't put it in there yet. I just put another butter in there. We live in Mallorca, it's hot and it melts really fast, so I do that at the end. I'm going to do a variation. I'm going to use some saffron. The saffron is important for the color and taste. You don't have to do this, you can just do the rice without this, but you will see what it does when I finish with it. Now, as for the measurement, I use a coffee mug. You can use any coffee mug this size. And the measurement basically is if you put one of these cups, it serves two people. Now, we've got some children who are tall and hungry and teenagers, so I generally do a lot of rice, and you can put it in the fridge, or if they don't eat it, you can put it in the freezer and you can take it out and thaw it out, and then you can use it later. So no problem at all, you can cook as much as you want. Now, what I want to show you is I've got a non-stick pan. It's very important, this non-stick pan. Why is it very important? Because if you use metal, it will all stick to the bottom and it will be horrible. What I've done in this water is I've put some salt and two tablespoons of oil. You can ask me, why do I put the oil? It's because my mother did it and it works for me, and I think it gives it that shine that it needs. So this is the first stage of the cooking. So I'm going to put this now to boil for about, to get to the boiling temperature, and once it gets to the boiling temperature, then I'll show you the rest. While I wait for the water to boil, what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare my saffron. Again, as I said before, you don't really have to do this, but this makes a nice and tasty rice, plus it gives a beautiful color or colors to the rice. I'm going to pour that into my pestle and mortar. It comes out. There. And you can see maybe about a teaspoon or so, as you can see. Now I add some salt to it because we live in a place with a lot of humidity, so that salt allows me to grind it perfectly. I ground it. It doesn't need to be totally grounded, it can be halfway, as you can see. Then I'm going to move this over to a plate that I've prepared here. I'm going to pour it over. Right. Then I have some boiling water here that I've boiled before. You don't need to have it fully boiled because it burns the saffron. You just pour a little bit. And why are you doing that? To dissolve the saffron and get that nice color. You'll see why in a bit. So I just do that, and as you can see, it's not really grounded that much, so it's still got the grains in it. Right, so we move on to our pot. The pot is boiling. Now, as I mentioned, you have the cup measurements you can do, but I'm gonna do a lot of rice, so it doesn't matter. Just like pasta, I'm gonna pour it in. Okay, I'm going to do quite a lot of rice. It really doesn't matter how much you put in, but I think that's enough for today. So, we have to now stir this regularly and let it boil. Okay. Now it's boiling probably about 5 minutes or so. You need to keep stirring it. It's very important to stir it so that it doesn't stick together. Now, the way to know if it's half cooked, because that's what we want to get, we want to make sure it's only half cooked, is I generally use one of these spoons, ladles if you like, and I like them, and it makes the whole thing smoother. So you take one and you just bite through it. You can bite through it, but still a little bit hard. That's when it's done. That's when you know it's half cooked. So then you turn your fire. If you're using gas, you put it on the lowest one you can. I generally put mine on 2 because I have an electrical one, and then the rest is what you need to pay attention to. So I take this and I've got a colander prepared here, and I generally use metal colander because it's more hygienic, and I pour the entire content into my colander, and whatever is left I put some more water on it to just make sure I get the whole thing. Okay, you want to get all the rice out. It doesn't matter if you pour the cold water over the rice, don't worry, because you will see what we're going to do with this rice. Right, so now you've got a pot, put a bit of rice on it, pretty much empty. I use a 1/4 cup of water. Don't use any more than that. It doesn't matter how much rice you're cooking. Okay, and then I use a tablespoon of oil. Now, we in Spain have something called socorrat, which is basically the burnt rice below the rice, which as kids we used to fight for all the time, and that's the purpose of the oil. So when you're cooking it on slow heat, eventually you will see it becomes a lovely socorrat, as we call it, the hard rice. So now you can see here I've got my saffron. I'm going to put that spoon here. I'm going to take some of the rice and put it into the saffron dish, right? You can put as much or as little, but the more merrier. And I'm going to just slowly mix it. You don't want to mix it completely, so you just want to give it that color, okay? And that's where you want to leave it. And then, so I've got my water and the oil, and I slowly, and this is the important part for it not to be fluffy, so you take a ladle and you put it like this inside, okay? Have a look inside my pot. I slowly just put everyone. For every couple of ladles, what you can do is put a little bit of this lovely saffron rice on it. And what does that do when you finally serve it? It's going to have this marble effect of beautiful rice. So I keep doing that until all the rice is done. Again, a little more marbling effect with my saffron rice. Very important. Saffron is expensive, so you want to get all the little last bits. Then a little bit more rice. Generally at this point I just do it like that. A little bit of more marble rice on it. Oops. You can see I'm not wasting one bit, right? And then, so I'm gonna put all that in here, and don't worry, even the last bit is gonna go in. You will see now how. Then I'm gonna put my last bit of rice that's left in my colander onto it. You can already see the beautiful fluffiness and the smell of basmati rice. It's lovely. So what you do then is you take a nice sort of spoon like that, and with the bottom of it you make holes inside, 3 or 4 holes inside the rice. Okay, and then told you I'm not going to waste this, so I'm going to put some water on it, and I'm going to pour that little bit of water over the rice. Okay, not so much, because you don't want it to be soggy. And then, if you remember, I told you about butter. Now you don't have to do this because it's not so healthy, but if you put these in the holes, it gives it this beautiful shine and a lovely taste. Now, what am I going to do with this rice, because it's only half cooked? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this rice onto my low heat, and then the trick is that what you want to do is you want to steam it. So you can use either kitchen towel like this or a tea towel like that. I put that, this is a clean towel, even though it's got bits and pieces, but it's been laundried, and always use a clean towel. Then I cover it like that, so it looks something like this. Why do I do that? Because when the water boils, it doesn't hit the metal and falls back into the rice. That's what makes it sticky. So this will absorb all the water. And I will just cover this quite tight and leave it there for 30 to 45 minutes. Right, so the rice now has been here for 40 minutes or so. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the temperature to the highest level. And if you've got gas, you can also do that. So I'm going to put that on my 9, which is the highest level. While I do that, and why do I do that, is because I'm going to make that thing I told you about, the sokorat, the hard rice at the bottom, which everybody's going to fight for. So, the other important thing is this should never be taken off until the very end, because the whole process is about steaming the rice at that level. So while that's being done, and we must not burn it, because if you burn the rice, all the smoke of burns will go into the whole rice and it'll be horrible. So generally I just do that for about 2-3 minutes, and when you see steam coming out of it, then it's kind of ready. And it takes a bit of practice, so bear with me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up my sink with water. Why do I do that? Because I want to make sure that once that's done, it doesn't cook any further. So that will cool down the bottom. You see how. Now, that's just about enough water. And now we wait a little bit for the rice to start doing steam. And once that's done, then we are ready to put it into the water. I can already hear a little bit of crackling. That's already very exciting. And the crackling is like, oh yeah, the rice is really doing it. I don't know if you can hear that on this microphone, but anyway, it's really nice. And what I've prepared here, which is going to be my thing, is I always like to taste my food with a little bit of wine. So today I've chosen a nice wine from Spain to have, and that's going to be very lovely. In the next show, I will show you what goes really well, what stew really goes well with this particular rice. So I can now hear it crackling really hard, and you have to gauge it, right? Just make sure it doesn't burn. So it may or may not be the perfect one. I like mine quite crunchy, but this is probably going to be medium crunchy, which is good enough for everybody. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to take my pot, and I'm going to put it in this water. That's the sound you want. So that cools down the pot so that it doesn't cook any further and it doesn't get burnt, right? Right. That's it. You need a few seconds. Cool it down. I'm going to put it now here, and I'm going to show you what we have created together. Right. So if you look at this now, this beautiful rice, it's exactly how we left it. But if you look at it, I can literally see how fluffy that is. So I'm going to take a little bit, see the colors and the marble that I told you about. So I'm going to just put a little bit of this on a plate, right? And if I go to the bottom, well, actually this time I didn't have enough. I obviously didn't leave it long enough, but at the bottom should be a nice crispy thing. Okay, so I'll do that for you next time, but I should have probably put it in for a bit longer for that nice crispy bit. So the important thing is now, if you see that, and always put that back actually on the rice and leave it in the corner. That rice will keep steaming, and it's very nice. What I want to show you now is look at that. Look at that. Look at that fluffiness. There's no stickiness. And then I'm going to say to you, cheers. Mm-mm-mm. Cheers.